Can you imagine turning your wood scraps into a cutting board that would sell for $3,250? Well, it's happened, and I'll tell you the story, and we'll even try to make one. Stick around. All right, welcome to the shop here in beautiful downtown Canterbury with a nor'easter going on out there. I'm Tom McLaughlin, and there's the camera lady.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. It's chilly.
And we are going to get into it. We've got kind of a fun project plan tonight, and that is just making a simple cutting board. But cutting boards don't have to be dead simple. They can be artful, as proven by one of the great makers in studio furniture history, Wharton Esherick. Wharton Esherick was born in the late 1800s, and he lived till 1970. And he's considered by most to be the Dean of American Craftsmen. That was his nickname, influencing greats like Sam Maloof and who else? George Nakashima and countless others. John Brooks, friend of mine. But lots of people have been influenced through his apprentices in spirit, I guess you would say. So what I want to do is just share a fun little project of the way he turned his scraps into saleable items, in particular cutting boards. Now, you can still go to his home. It's actually a museum in Pennsylvania. I think it's Malvern or something like that.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
And we actually did that. We visited his home about a year and a half ago. And we actually made a video of that visit. And we are linking you to that. You can check that out after to learn a lot more about Wharton Esherick. But tonight we just want to focus on his cutting boards. Now, in the little thumbnail there, you see the cutting board, and I say $3,250. That cutting board actually did sell for that amount at an auction.
Unbelievable.
In 2016. It's a walnut board. Unfortunately, Wharton never got that much while he was alive. That's the sad truth of being an artist in many cases, or a craftsman. You know, you don't really make it big till you die.
And you're not around to make them anymore. They become
it's a
supply
great
and demand.
Dying is a great career move. If that's the case, it's probably not your career if you need to make the big bucks. So anyway, it's really impressive. You can do searches on Wharton Esherick, cutting boards, stools, and these were small items that he used to make for the tire kickers as we were shared. I'm sorry, her name again, who gave us a tour? Larissa
Huff.
Yeah, she gave us a great tour there, and he would sell these stools for about $50, and so I'm guessing the cutting boards back in the day were like $20, $25, but they appreciated it.
He used to sell those stools for $25.
Yeah,
People
crazy.
would just come on by and sell them for $25. Those amazing stools.
But this is in like the 30s,
hours and hours.
40s, 50s, you know. So it wasn't too bad, and they were kind of, but it's not great. But anyway, the cutting boards, and this actually is a little model that I made, and if the dimensions on that auction piece that I had, do you have it up on the screen?
I do. Let me get
All
it
right,
for
put
you.
that on the screen, please. That actually is listed in the auction catalog. That's the one that sold for $3,250. It's listed as 4 inches by 13 inches. That, to me, seems a bit small because I made this one that dimension. I actually made it a little wider, but it's about 13 inches long.
Wow.
So that cutting board, if that's right, is, I wonder if the people who bought that online auction, when they got it in the mail, if they hadn't noticed that, they go, oh, wow, I think I got ripped off. But It does say it was signed, so it somewhere on that board it's X with the little, he would do a W-E in a certain way that was very artful. So anyway, one of the things I want you to notice about his cutting boards, if you do a search online too, is how beautifully organic they are and how nicely soft they feel, like rounding over. I remember going up in the White Mountains here, not too far north of us, and there's an area called the Basin where you may have seen this in your travels, where the water has been washing down the granite rocks for so many thousands of years that it's worn them away in a very sculptural way. And it reminds me of the way he treated the surfaces. It's not just a dead round over, and I'll get into that more when we shape one up. But I'll just want to get into it. It's not going to be exhaustive, but I do want to give you a sense of how you can knock out your scraps. If you keep your scraps, some of you are very neat, but most of us struggle to keep organized. Well, here's the thing. You want to begin with some nice wood, and this is just a piece of maple. So you could make a board out of a cut off piece like this. This is kind of a nice piece, right? Your options would be great. And you could make something, really fun. Like, don't be stuck on just what he did, but I think if he were around to say anything, he would say, make it fun and like shaped like, so you could make it like that. And usually he'd put a hole in the handle area or something. So it could be a cutting board that was imaginative and fun like that, and then you could have room down here for another small one or whatever. So have fun with it. But one of the things I did notice, like that one that I put in for the auction, they usually included some really nice figure, some kind of crotch figure or something else that he would often work around, and it would dictate the shape somewhat. So you can do that. I really prefer doing that. So I'm thinking, I'm not sure how I'll do it with this, but this is another piece. This is not a dead cutoff. I actually cut this to make some interesting boards. This is flame birch. So you can see the heart of flame birch is called red birch, and the sapwood of flame birch, or birch, is called yellow birch. And that's all it is. It's from the same tree, red birch, gorgeous. Yellow birch. But this would make an awesome cutting board. It's got great hardness. And when the oil hits this, it'll just be spectacular. So that, you could work with that type of thing. But I think the most fun you can have is when you get the odd cutoffs that have character. Now, I've had some walnut planks in the basement, like chopped up in small parts and pieces. And one of them I resawed, and it's actually got this great walnut crotch figure, which he has on that cutting board in the drawing. I mean, in the that we showed earlier. And this can be made into something. I've got some sapwood there, but that would make some great ones. But look how that's nice and tight grain figure. That will just explode with a lot of depth and richness once the finish hits it. But I want to work instead with this cutoff. This was just a chunk that was downstairs. I just ran it through the planer, and I brought it down to like 3/4 of an inch. That's pretty good thickness, I think, for cutting boards in general, although you can go a little thicker or thinner. And what I like about this one is, look, can you see the curly figure? Do you see it?
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's like it's like a curly figure that occurs in this walnut, but it's actually caused by compression. So quite often it's near the trunk of the tree where there's so much pressure and compression as it grows, or it could be sometimes where a big limb is coming out from the tree and you get this rippled effect. So it's not throughout the tree, it's just in those regions where you got that compression pressure. So I'm going to use that, and that'll make a sweet cutting board. But let's make it in the style something like the one, this other one. Can you show that picture?
Sure.
That I saw you can see in his, it was also auctioned off. I just couldn't find the price on this one. Maybe somebody else can. We're not going to do exactly that, but let's do something like that, kind of Esherick-y. And it actually works with this piece because you look how the grain, you can see kind of the grain here, and then it curves over a little bit. Now I've got this little defect right there where a wormhole ate through, and it comes out over here, and I marked, that's about where it is on the other side. So I'm actually going to avoid that. I don't want to fill it and have a filled spot. So let's just make that the inside of the curve, something like this. Just come down like that. Okay? And then over here, we want to use this. We want this nice compression figure in there. Ours is not going to be quite as wide. That other board that we just showed you is about 20 by 17 or 19 or something. All right, so just sort of like that. And then let's just make a big sweeping cut here. And we'll kind of come around. All right, so we're going to put a hole down here. We're going to put a 3/4 inch hole right in this area here. So just be real free with it, you know, like feel, you can draw it on with a pencil if you want, but I think part of the genius of his art and his work was you could just tell he was a free spirit, you know, and it showed in the way his designs were too. He had like a very, he came at woodworking as an artist first, you know, and then he got into woodworking by accidentally building frames for his art.
If you watch that video that we linked, you'll see his home was just full of everything that he made, from woodworking to paint, like things on his walls, and
it's a trip to visit.
it's really, really his life.
All right, so let's go over to the bandsaw and we'll cut this up. Where do you want to stand?
Oh, you just go ahead and I'll follow.
Okay, how's that? All right, here we go. I'm going to turn on the dust collector. I'll have this up so you can see better. Let's put it down a little bit. Here we go. All right. All right, that was fun. That feels Esherick-y, doesn't it?
That's awesome.
All right, so he would do things So you can see on the other side how nice that figure looks. And he would just do things like this with nice, but he would smooth his surfaces, I know, with all different methods. He had sanders. He would do this kind of thing. So I just want to show you a couple different ways you could go about this. As far as sanding this, now you want to kind of fair these edges more smoothly before we do some rounding. So I've just got one of these wide belt sanders here, and I'm going to just use this a little bit. Here we go. So I just did some light sanding, but I've got, if you've got any like little bumps there you want to clean off, you can also use the good old spokeshave, which you all know how much I enjoy. So I'm going to put that in here and just show you how you could do that. So you could use a block plane, but here I think the spokeshave is easier. So I'm looking for where the grain reverses. So it's right about here. I need to spokeshave that direction and then come this way, because this is where the grain is running parallel with this curve. So I'm going to just start here and start down. I got a little tear right there, but not sure why. Grain's getting funky. All right, I'm going to come toward you. So I don't have to be perfect about this. I just want to get it faired so the router will have something smooth to run on. And the edge will be nice as a start. That's good. I'm not going to turn this on. I'm just going to... Okay, and then on the inside here, same thing, but I don't think that iron's not out enough. This one I think is set heavier. Ah, the smell of walnuts sends me right back to Pug Shop. Just gonna hit this one little spot. Okay, so now that I've got this faired, I just need to drill the hole. So let's get a location on that. I think right about just centering in this mass. I'll be a little further from the end there, right about there. Doesn't really matter that much. And then I've got just a 3/4 inch Forstner. There we go. Make sure you back it up so you don't drill into your beautiful bench. Okay. Man, we're almost there already. All right, so now that we've got this, I'm going to do a round over to get us started. And then I'll show you the little secret sauce to get the Esherickian edge. So what I want to do is just hold it down. I've got, in the router, I've set a 5/16 round over. So it's almost the full round over here. You could do a 3/8, but I think a 5/16 is enough because you're going to do some shaping on the edge. So I'm going to just take a hold fast or a clamp. Do this in a couple sections. I'm going to be cutting into this workpiece on the right side with a clockwise action. If I pull this way, I'm going to be going right into the teeth of the grain. There's not much you can do about that. But what I'm going to try to do is make light cuts, and then my last cut, I'm going to try to do a climb cut. So I'm just removing a little bit of material, but I'm going to make the cut in this direction so that all the material is gone on the round over as I advance. When I hit those fibers where the grain is running this way, there's not enough meat beyond those fibers because I've already cut it. So they don't want to tear deeper. They just break off, fracture off. That's why a climb cut gives you a lot less opportunity for tear out, if you can do it. It's going to be a little shaky right around this area here. All right. And then I'll just set it kind of slowly down into the hole I just drilled and rotate it. You can see the way this is set up. I set that bit so it's roughly flush. It might cut a little over depth, that's fine. But I won't hit the table with the pin. So let's go for it. Here we go. Flip it around. I just need a little extra strength with the clamp here. All right, here we go. Flip it over. Here we go.
Nice. Looking good. Looks like a cornucopia to me.
Yeah, it does. He's pretty funky, you know, with his choices. All right, so there it is.
That's awesome.
It's just got the initial round over. So now what we want to do is add that shape. So you can see how we got a nice round over. We still have a little flat there. But to get the true Esherick look and feel, what happens is you've got the flat and it doesn't go straight into the round over. It actually starts falling away before you get to the round over. So even on the desk that's there in his home, when you take the tour, just look at the surfaces if you see those and notice how they're flat, but they don't go all the way out and then mold. They go out and then there's a kind of a dropping off before the edge. So it just gives it a way more organic, living. I don't know how to explain it other than show you. Here we go. So let's just take this for an example. I'll just pop this on here. Now I find it's easiest to just use a spokeshave. So I hope the grain is friendly to me here. But so what I'm going to do, I'm holding it and I'm just going to work in this area here to start dropping it slightly before the radius. And then I'll just carry it right into the, so I don't care if I maintain the radius, I just cut on the router. I'd rather not actually. I'm creating like more of a little flatter thing. That router bit was more or less just roughing it out for us. And down here you can be more aggressive. Make this thing look more fluid. Okay, I'm going against the grain there, so I'm going to have to get that the other direction. So I'm taking it down, and I want to be aggressive enough to get right out on the edge there. Okay, then over here, same thing. Let's get it out here a little bit more. So it's still flat in the middle there, but it's definitely going to have a softer transition to the edge. This is fun, you know, it's a good chance to enjoy working with your spokeshave and get some of that organic feel in there. You know, if you get to the point you want to crank these out and you can do it with a power tool, more power to you.
Have you worked with olive wood much?
A couple of times, more on decorative type pieces.
I'm getting the question if
made a
you think
cabinet.
that would be a good wood for
Oh, sure, yeah, that would be gorgeous.
charcuterie board.
Yeah, yeah. So this is charcuterie or cutting, but you can imagine how classy and, you know, original it looks when you pop this out for your guests. Like, what the heck is that thing? But You say, oh, it's just this whole thing. I just came up with that. Want to buy one? So there you have that. Now, to get in here, we want to also work that a little too. So you can use
So cool.
the rasp. I'm going to bring that down a little more. I have my router bit set a little bit deeper, so I don't want to have that ridge to mess with. No problem. Just have some fun. And then we want to blend this in a little bit more. Let's see. I don't have to do that much here. I'm going to do that with my file. So the coarse side of the file, I think, will give us all we need here. But you got to kind of take your time and lay it. You're laying it kind of down to soften that. So it's not just like an obvious transition from flat to round over. Okay, now to show you what I mean, stay right there. Here's the way that one was. So can you see how it's just very fluid almost. It's not just flat with a round over. There's more of a fluidity and elegance to it in that way. And the edge, although it was rounded over, it has a stronger, thinner kind of look right on the edge. So that's what we're going for. That kind of fluidity that takes it out of the just flat board that was shaped with a router bit. So I could do more of this, but I'm not going to fuss with it too long. You get the idea. So let's just say this section, once I had that, you could go to rasping it, soften some of those facets if you like. And that starts to blend everything even nicer. I'm using a Nicholson 50. So that's it. It's kind of, I would do a little more with that, you know. Feel fine to go a little beyond what you maybe even comfortable with at first. And then I would hit it with the file, the rougher side of the file. And I would do this all over. You could hit it with the fine quickly. Like once you've got the whole thing shaped, you're just detailing the edge here. And once I've done that, I grab this card scraper and I'm cleaning off those file marks to make sanding a lot faster.
What do you think about finish, Tom?
I'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to put a little finish on that little guy. The $3,000 one. I'll take a little less than that.
I already had some bids on here.
Yeah, right. Don't I have to die first?
It is kind of a running joke in our household. You can imagine. It's been a lot of years.
All right, so you can see I'm starting to get that fluidity going there. And once we get it to this point, then I like to sand using, you know, if you put 150 on your palm sander with that cushiony pad, I'm just going to do a tiny bit here. It's going to be a little bit noisier. Okay, then you would go to 220, and you've got to get, sometimes I'll wrap around something softer. I would hit that hole more so it just sort of looks like water's like flowing down into it on both sides. So in the end, you end up with a little bit more finished sculptural look. But that's the process in a nutshell. We won't finish this out in the interest of time, but that's your introduction to making great Esherickian, I don't know if that's the word, but cutting boards.
Whartonian.
Whartonian. So let's just get a little of the finish here. I'm going to put, you know, you could put food safe finish, but according to Bob Flexner, all finishes are food safe once the VOCs have gone off. So once the solvent has fully evaporated, you're left with a safe surface finish. So I'm going to put some of this Murdoch's. This is actually like a urethane base finish from Sutherland Wells. The Murdoch's floor finish satin. I would use the wiping varnish tung oil, but I couldn't open that can. So anyway, this actually looks quite nice and quite durable. So let's see what it looks like. Oil varnishes in general just look great on walnut. They will warm up over time. You'll get a nice saturation. Let's just do this. This has like a very a less caustic kind of solvent. It's like the kind that smells like oranges. So you can get that version with Sutherland Wells. I think they're marked by the blue color label. I'm not certain of that though, because some cans don't have that blue. I'm just going to get some on the rag. And we'll get it on our board.
Oh, stunning.
Look at that figure, huh? Just a little splash of figure on this one. It's straight along that edge. Tried to copy what he did. That's what gets you the big bucks. But to just play around with it, you know, and use the grain. And these make great gifts. You know, I just made a couple cutting boards last week. We had 2 nieces in the same family got married, 5 weeks apart?
Less than that.
Yeah, so they each got a cutting board.
Not this kind though.
No, end grain cherry. It's a nice gift. It's about 10 by 15 finished. And we've done videos on that too. If you can, maybe you should link to that, right?
Okay.
That's not as
It's just so stunning.
organic as this. Yeah, there's just something about those edges that are finished so well. It's like, I think of liquid, you know, like either the water has worn away the stones. That's what you want, is that kind of soft kind of transition.
Yeah.
So you're going to take it beyond the router bit round over. It's a shape that can change even along the edge. It doesn't have to be the same. It could be a little thinner in places. Who cares? You just want to have it flat enough so the grapes don't roll off. Now, once I've got this wiped down, I made this little stand. You can just run these screws in kind of at an angle. And what it is, it just leaves this little very thin rounded edge for it to sit on. So you can put that on here like that and get it up in the air. It'll dry nicely. All right. There it is. Our first Wharton Esherick like charcuterie or cutting board, whatever you want to call it. So I'd probably put 3 coats of this, and I just wipe it on and then let it sit a little while, this first one, and then you'll come and just wipe it off, and the successive coats will go on similarly. So you end up with just a thin, nice protective coat, and over time it'll just get a gorgeous patina. just like his boards. Well, that's the story of the $3,250 cutting board. But why wait and spend that when you can make your own out of your own scrap pile and lessen your scrap pile at the same time?
It's awesome.
All right, everyone. Well, if you enjoyed this content and it gets some value out of it, please consider subscribing. That helps us more than you know. And also head over to epicwoodworking.com. Check out the classes. We've got a lot of great courses from beginner to more advanced. And especially, we'd love to have you move into the neighborhood. That's where the most fun is. So thanks again for hanging out with us. On behalf of the camera lady and myself, look forward to seeing you next time on Shop Night Live. Good night,
Thanks, everybody. Have fun making your boards. Take care.